Hello everyone, this time we have something a little different. Different in the fact that it's a bass guitar. It's actually a Squier Affinity precision bass that was for sale locally at a really good price. Now I do need a bass, but purely for home recording, so I wasn't bothered what it looked like or how badly scuffed up it was. So when I saw this scruffy, quite neglected bass, I jumped at it because I've owned and worked on Squiers and they're always so very good for their money. I thought that what I would do here is to show you how I set up a bass so that it plays and sounds as good as it can. And trust me, these Squier basses are so good when set up properly. I went and picked this guitar up and saw it had no major issues, but it had been seriously neglected. So let's get to work on it. First thing I did was check the truss rod, because this needs to be done with the strings on and tuned to pitch. But it doesn't matter if the strings are old and rank like these ones are, as all we want to do is check the tension in the neck. I use a capo at the first fret to hold the E string down, but if you don't have a capo, any flat object will do really, like a ruler, a couple of plectrums, or even a CD, as long as it holds the E string down just behind the first fret. I then press down on the 13th fret and check the gap at the 7th fret, and it should be no more than a business card width. Hopefully you can see here that the card just passes through that gap, so this is perfect. You ideally want it to hang on between the string when you let it go, but you don't want to have to force it past the string, and you don't want it falling straight through. If it doesn't fit at all, then you need to loosen the truss rod by turning it anti-clockwise, and if the gap is bigger than 1 or 2 business cards, then you need to tighten the truss rod by turning it clockwise. You could use feeler gauges, which are quite cheap to buy and a great investment, and I'll leave a link in the description. Don't be worried about adjusting the truss rod, even though you're always told nightmare stories about breaking your guitar if you touch it. If you make gentle adjustments, maybe a quarter turn at a time and then check, you'll be fine. Just take it slow and be patient. Remember to tune each string to pitch after each adjustment. Now that the truss rod is where we need it to be, we now need to clean this guitar, and boy does it need a clean. We also need to get rid of these old strings. Once we have cleaned the bass and removed the strings, we need to inspect the frets. Now you could use a fret rocker, and this will check that the frets are nice and level. I will leave a link to a fret rocker in the description in case you want to do that, but this is now taking you into a more advanced setup procedure, as you will inevitably find with the frets on the more affordable guitar, such as this one, they are often a little uneven, but this won't even notice during playing. If you do notice that your guitar is badly hindered in any way by an uneven fret, then you really should take it to a luthier to have this problem properly addressed, as it's very easy to do some expensive damage once you start trying to level and crown frets with no real knowledge. I did check the frets on this bass guitar, and although they are dull and dirty, there is no damage, so all we need to do is polish these frets with some fret rubbers. Start with the lower values and slowly build up to the higher ones until your frets are all lovely and shiny. I'll leave a link to the fret rubbers in the description. They are relatively cheap and they last quite a while, so they're well worth buying. You can buy sets with 5 or 6 rubbers in, but I've always found that my set of 3 are just fine. When doing this job you can use fret guards like I have done, or simply tape the fretboard either side of the fret you are polishing to ensure no damage is done. Now we can clean and oil this fretboard, as it's looking quite dry. Once all that is done, it's time to replace the strings and tune the bass to pitch, because it's time to check the action and intonation. Now there's no real way of doing this job properly without a string gauge or a ruler, but again these are quite cheap to buy. I set my E string to 2mm and my G string to 1.5mm. Hopefully you can see that I measured to the bottom of the string. Sometimes it's difficult to get the G string not to buzz at 1.5mm, so if that's the case, just raise it slightly until the buzzing stops. We lower or raise the action of a string using an Allen key on the saddle. Remember to try and keep the saddle straight, so if you make say 2 turns to one side, do the same to the other. Again, just take your time until you're happy with the height and the feel of the strings you are adjusting. Keep tuning to pitch after every adjustment, this is very important. It's a very important point to remember that all guitars are different, and some won't be able to have their action set to 1.5mm or 2mm. Some need to be a touch higher, and some can go lower. The measurements I've given you are just a good starting guide, but you may find you need to adjust yours slightly differently, or you may prefer a lower or higher action. It's all subjective and dependent on your playing. The last job is the intonation, and this is adjusted by the screw at the back of the saddle of the string. You need to intonate your guitar so that the notes are correct to each fret and not just the open string. Once intonated, your guitar will be in tune at every fret and every note should sound good. With a good quality tuner, check the open string and tune to pitch. Then fret the string at the 12th fret and check the note again, as this should be the same. If it's flat, then turn the screw anti-clockwise. If it's sharp, turn the screw clockwise, and again, slow, gentle turns. As usual, tune to pitch after each adjustment. When the open string and the fretted note are both the same and in tune, you are fully intonated. Do this to each string, again making sure you are tuned to pitch after each adjustment. Remember, guitars at the end of the day are just pieces of wood, so some may not intonate perfectly, but you just need to have them as close as you can get them. There is also an argument that when you fret a note, your finger pressure isn't even and you often bend the note slightly, so you don't need to intonate to perfect pitch, but you do need to be relatively close so that your guitar sounds good all over the fretboard. Practice definitely makes perfect, and it's such an important skill to learn to set up your own guitar, and the money you spend on these simple tools will soon save you much more, as you'll have no more expensive setups to pay for. The other good thing is that these tools are exactly what you need to set up any guitar, no matter how many strings they have. So that's it, you're all done, and your bass should play as good as it can. Before I show you how good this bass guitar sounds, as I always ask, if you enjoy the content I create, please take the time to like and subscribe. It literally costs you nothing but a few minutes of time, but helps me to continue making these free, independent videos and reviews, and also helps spread these videos to a wider audience that may well be in need of some free help and advice. So until the next time, as always, thanks for watching.